I was sitting on the edge of my bed holding my phone in my hands, waiting for a message that never came. The screen stayed dark. The silence stayed loud. I told myself not to cry, but the tears slipped down anyway, slow and heavy. My name is Rachel, I'm 32 years old and I live in Portland, Oregon. On the outside my life looks calm. I have a stable job, a small apartment with warm lights and people who think I am strong. My coworkers tell me I'm independent. My family says I'm lucky. But if they could step into my heart they would see the truth. I'm not lucky. I am not strong. I am quietly falling apart. The man I loved, the man I thought I would spend forever with, didn't leave me with angry words. He didn't shout, he didn't fight, he didn't even say goodbye. He broke me with silence. At first I told myself it was stress. Work was heavy, life was busy, and maybe he just needed space. I waited for him to talk. I waited for him to look at me the way he used to. I told myself, tomorrow he'll smile again. Tomorrow he'll come back to me. But tomorrow never came. I woke up beside him every morning, but it felt like sleeping next to a stranger. His eyes avoided mine. His words grew fewer and fewer, until the only sound left in our home was the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of the clock. I lived with that silence every day, pretending it wasn't eating me alive. Pretending that a quiet dinner and a polite smile meant we were still okay. Pretending that love could survive without words. But deep down I knew the truth. Love doesn't end with a fight. Sometimes it ends with nothing at all. Just a silence that grows so big, it swallows everything you once believed in. That night as I wiped my tears and turned off my phone, a thought crossed my mind that scared me. Maybe he's already gone, and I just haven't admitted it yet. It wasn't the words that broke me, it was the silence. Every morning began the same way. The alarm would buzz at 6:30, the light would slip through the blinds, and I would roll over to see him lying next to me. But even though we shared the same bed, it felt like we were miles apart. His name is David. 35 years old. Smart, dependable, calm. To the outside world we looked like the perfect couple. We had a nice apartment, steady jobs, and a quiet rhythm that people often mistook for happiness. But no one saw the truth, that the silence between us had become a wall. At breakfast I would pour coffee into his favorite mug, the one with the little crack near the handle. He used to joke about how it was the mug that survived everything. Back then he would smile when he said it. But now he just took it from my hands without a word. We ate in silence. Forks against plates, coffee being sipped, phones buzzing with notifications neither of us cared to share. I looked at him, searching for something, any sign of the man who once filled our home with laughter. But all I found was a face that no longer belonged to me. After breakfast he left for work. He always kissed me on the forehead before he walked out the door. It was gentle, polite. But it felt like a routine rather than love. And as the door closed, the apartment grew too quiet again. From the outside no one would guess. When friends came over we played the part well. We smiled, we cooked together, we asked each other polite questions. Everyone admired us, saying things like, "You two are so steady, so strong." I smiled back, nodding, lying with my teeth. Because in truth our life had become a prison. Beautiful on the outside, empty on the inside. One evening after dinner I sat on the couch reading while he scrolled through his phone. I wanted to ask him what was wrong, why he had drifted so far, but the words stuck in my throat. I was afraid of the answer. Instead I asked about something simple. How was work today? He glanced up then back down. Fine. That was it. One word. Fine. I smiled weakly and looked back at my book, though I hadn't read a single line. It was like living with a shadow. He was there but not really there. And I was drowning in the silence he left behind. Then one night a shift happened. I was clearing the table after dinner when he came up behind me, touched my shoulder gently and said, "I've been thinking, maybe we should start looking at houses. Something bigger. A place with more room. Maybe even for a family." My heart clenched. For a moment I thought I misheard him. A family. Those words should have filled me with joy. They should have been the promise of a future. But instead they felt like another layer of my prison. Because how could we dream about children, about forever, when we couldn't even share a real conversation anymore? I forced a smile, nodding. Yeah, maybe. But when I turned away to place the dishes in the sink, my hands started shaking so hard I almost dropped the plate. That night, lying in bed next to him, I stared at the ceiling and wondered if silence could raise a family. If two people could build a life when one of them was already halfway gone. I didn't have the answer. But deep down I feared I already knew it. He kissed my forehead that night, but said nothing at all. That silence broke me. That night, after he mentioned buying a bigger house, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake listening to his steady breathing, staring into the darkness, feeling like the walls were closing in on me. A family. The future. Words that should have been beautiful, instead felt terrifying. Because deep down I knew why. His silence wasn't just his. It carried me back to another silence years ago. A silence I thought I had left behind. His name was Ethan. I was 24 when I met him. I had just finished grad school, full of dreams and eager to start my life. Ethan was charming, funny, the kind of man who filled every room with energy. He made me laugh in ways no one else did. And when he said he loved me, I believed it completely. We were inseparable. Long walks by the river, late night drives with music blasting, endless conversations about our future. He promised me forever, and I held on to those promises like they were unbreakable. But forever ended quietly. First, I noticed small things. He stopped answering my texts right away. He canceled plans last minute. He started spending weekends busy with work. When I asked him if something was wrong, he would smile and shake his head. Of course not. You worry too much. And then one day he simply stopped calling. No fight, no goodbye, just silence. I spent weeks staring at my phone, waiting for a message that never came. I called, I texted, I begged for answers. But he was gone. Not just from my life but from my world. He had vanished, leaving nothing but questions and an emptiness I carried for years. That silence broke me in ways words never could. It taught me to doubt, to fear, to expect abandonment. It made me believe that love wasn't safe. So when I met David 2 years later, his steady calmness felt like salvation. He was nothing like Ethan. He was grounded, responsible, gentle. He showed up when he said he would. He never raised his voice, never walked away. With him, I thought I had finally found peace. But I realize now, I didn't choose David out of love. I chose him out of fear. Out of a desperate need to escape Ethan's ghost. I told myself silence was better than lies. That stability was safer than passion. That quiet routines could protect me from heartbreak. And for a while I believed it. Until the silence started again. Not loud, not dramatic, just subtle. The fading of conversations, the missing smiles, the distance growing day by day. Different man, same silence. One evening while cooking dinner, the radio played a song Ethan used to love. The memories crashed into me like a wave. The laughter, the promises, the night he disappeared. My hands trembled so badly I had to turn off the stove. David noticed but didn't ask. He just set the table in silence. That was when it hit me. I had never healed from Ethan. I had only buried him under routines and politeness. And now David's silence was pulling Ethan's ghost back into my life. Later that night when I sat alone in the bathroom, I whispered to myself. I thought I left my past behind. But maybe I just married it in a different form. I thought I left my past behind, until his silence brought it back to life. After that night I told myself I would be stronger. I would not let the past control me. I would bury Ethan's ghost once and for all, and I would fight to keep my marriage alive. So I pretended. I smiled at David when he walked through the door. I cooked his favorite meals. I laughed at his small jokes even when they barely reached my heart. I told friends we were fine. I even convinced myself some days that the silence wasn't so bad, that maybe this was just how love aged, soft and quiet. But pretending doesn't heal you. It only deepens the cracks. David saw through it even if he didn't say so. He noticed when my smiles didn't reach my eyes. He noticed when my laughter was just air, not joy. Sometimes he would look at me like he wanted to ask something, but then he turned away. One Saturday morning as I was folding laundry, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my best friend, Maya. Coffee? You sound like you need it. I almost said no. I didn't want her to see how broken I felt. But something in me was too tired to keep hiding. So I met her at our favorite cafe downtown. She took one look at me and frowned. You look exhausted. What's going on? I forced a laugh. Nothing. Just work, you know. But Maya wasn't fooled. She leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Rachel, I've known you for 12 years. Don't lie to me. Something's wrong. The tears came before the words. I tried to blink them away, but they spilled onto my cheeks. It's David, I whispered. He doesn't talk to me anymore. He's here, but he's not here. It feels like I'm invisible in my own home. Maya reached for my hand, her grip warm and steady. Oh, Rachel, silence can be louder than shouting. And you've been carrying that silence alone. Her words broke something in me. I lowered my head, my voice trembling. I don't know how to fix it. I don't even know if he wants it fixed. He squeezed my hand tighter. Then you need to stop pretending. For your sake, if not for his. You can't live your whole life waiting for someone to speak. Her advice stayed with me as I walked home. Every step echoed with the truth. Pretending was killing me. That evening, David and I sat across from each other at the dinner table. I pushed food around my plate, gathering the courage to speak. David, I said softly, are you happy? He looked up, startled. What do you mean? I swallowed hard. With us. With me. For a moment, his lips parted like he was about to answer. But then, nothing. His eyes dropped back to his plate. Silence again. The weight of that silence was heavier than any words could have been. Later that night, I sat on the balcony staring at the city lights. The cool air stung my skin, but I barely felt it. Inside, the apartment was quiet. Too quiet. My phone buzzed. It was Maya again. I read her message through blurry eyes. You look like someone carrying a love that doesn't belong to her. He was right. The love I carried wasn't mine anymore. Maybe it hadn't been for a long time. And in that moment I knew I couldn't pretend any longer. She told me, your silence is louder than his. That's when I knew I couldn't pretend anymore. The breaking point came one Thursday night. The house was too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your heart restless. We had just finished dinner and David sat in the living room scrolling on his phone while I washed the dishes. I stared at the water running over my hands, my chest tightening with every second that passed. The silence between us had grown too big. I couldn't carry it anymore. I dried my hands, walked into the living room and stood in front of him. David, I said, my voice soft but steady. We need to talk. He looked up, surprised. About what? I took a deep breath, my heart racing. About us. His phone slipped from his hand onto the couch. For the first time in weeks, his full attention was on me. Do you even love me anymore? The words escaped in a whisper, trembling but honest. His face shifted, the question hitting him like a weight. He opened his mouth, closed it, then rubbed his hands over his face. The silence stretched until I thought I would break. Finally he spoke. His voice was low, heavy. I don't know. Those 3 words cut deeper than any anger could. I felt my knees weaken, my chest ache like something inside me had shattered. You don't know. I whispered. He looked at me with eyes full of sorrow. Rachel, I've been trying. I really have. But somewhere along the way, something changed. I can't explain it. I can't point to a moment. I just know I don't feel the same anymore. Tears blurred my vision. Then why didn't you say anything? Why did you let me keep pretending we were okay? His voice cracked. Because I didn't want to hurt you. And maybe I was hoping I'd find my way back. But the more I stayed silent, the farther I drifted. I sank onto the chair across from him, my body shaking. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the quiet hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. I wiped my tears with trembling fingers. So that's it? After everything, it just ends like this. He lowered his head. I don't want to hurt you anymore. And I know staying like this is hurting you the most. The pain was unbearable, but deep down I knew he was right. His silence had already broken me long before this moment. We sat there for what felt like hours. 2 people who once shared everything, now sharing nothing but quiet heartbreak. No shouting, no blame, just the truth we had both avoided for too long. Finally, I stood up, wiped my face and walked toward the bedroom. I gathered a small bag, not knowing where I would go, only knowing I couldn't stay. As I reached the door, David's voice broke the silence one last time. Rachel, he said softly. I turned, tears streaming down my face. His eyes glistened, his lips trembling. When I said I don't know, it was louder than any goodbye. I'm sorry. I swallowed the lump in my throat, nodded once and stepped out into the night. The door closed behind me with a quiet click. And just like that, the silence between us became final. When he said I don't know, it was louder than any goodbye. The first night away from home was the hardest. I stayed at a friend's apartment, lying on the couch, staring at the ceiling. The city outside was alive. Cars, voices, footsteps. But inside me, everything was still. I thought the silence would crush me. But strangely it felt different now. For the first time it was mine. The days turned into weeks. I found a small one-bedroom apartment near my office. It wasn't much, just white walls, second-hand furniture, and a window that overlooked a noisy street. But it was mine. Every corner felt honest. No pretending. No walking on eggshells. Just me and the sound of my own breathing. At first I hated the loneliness. I would reach for my phone, half expecting a message from David, even though I knew it wouldn't come. The silence at night was sharp, cutting through me, reminding me of everything I lost. But slowly I began to fill that silence. I bought a notebook and started journaling every night. I wrote down every memory, every thought, every ache. I poured my pain onto the pages until my hands hurt. Some nights I cried as I wrote. Other nights I found myself smiling at small memories that didn't sting as much anymore. I started walking in the evenings, headphones in, the city lights flickering around me. The rhythm of my footsteps, the hum of the streets, it all became a kind of music, gentle, steady, alive. And then one Sunday morning, as I unpacked an old box of books, I found something I didn't expect. Tucked between the pages of a novel was a folded piece of paper. David's handwriting. I froze, my heart pounding, before I opened it. It wasn't a letter. Just a note he had written months ago and left for me to find back then. Rachel, thank you for loving me when I forgot how to love myself. You are stronger than you realize. Don't lose that strength. D. Tears filled my eyes, but this time they weren't only from pain. There was gratitude too. Gratitude for the time we had, for the lessons his silence taught me, even if it broke me. Because I finally understood. Silence isn't always weakness. Sometimes it's the space we need to hear our own voice again. Now when I wake up in the morning, I don't wait for a message that never comes. I don't sit in silence hoping someone else will fill it. I speak to myself. I remind myself that I am whole, even if love didn't stay. David broke my heart silently. But in the silence that followed, I found myself. And if you've ever been broken by silence, if you've ever waited for words that never came, I want you to know this. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And healing begins the moment you stop pretending and start listening to your own heart. If you've ever been broken by silence, remember, you can heal in your own voice. Tell me your story in the comments.